You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There are latest things that makes it official. Welcome to the big show. For over 16 years and 2,300 episodes, we bring you the Chris Voss Show. And as always, we bring you the most brilliant minds, the people who share their journeys, their entrepreneurism, their CEOs, the Pulitzer Prize winners, the great journalists, the billionaires, all the wonderful, smart people that come on the show and share their journeys, their stories of life, how they built their businesses, et cetera, and give you inspiration and knowledge to how you can build your life or live your life better, as it were. Today we have an amazing young man we'll be talking to on the show. But in the meantime, refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss One, the TikTok, and all those crazy places on the internet. Ben McQueen joins us today. He is the founder of Karuna Kava, a space dedicated to fostering community and connection without alcohol. I like that because I quit drinking in 2020 after becoming addiction and after overcoming addiction and experiencing the challenges of sobriety. Ben discovered the ancient drink kava as a wonderful, powerful tool for mindfulness and belonging. His journey from homelessness to launching a thrilling kava bar reflects resilience, purpose, and the belief of intentional living. Through Karuna Kava, Ben offers a meaningful alternative to traditional social spaces, creating a haven for those exploring sobriety, self-discovery, and alternative wellness practices. Welcome to the show. How are you, Ben?
Oh, I'm blessed to be here. I'm really stoked to be able to chat with you.
There you go. It sounds like you had some great stories and journey we're going to talk about. Give us your .coms. Where can people find out more about you on the interwebs?
Yeah, if you want to learn more about what we're doing, check out karunakava.com. That's KARUNAKAVA.com. Also, check out our Instagram. We do a lot of hilarious content on our Instagram page and our Facebook pages. That's Instagram.com/karunakava. That's a good spot to find out what we're up to.
There you go. So give us a 30,000 overview of what you guys do there. And what is kava?
That's a great question. It's kind of an intricate question. So we provide effective and enjoyable non-alcoholic beverages for people so that they can still socialize and have community and enjoy their life without the toxic qualities of alcohol. The main conduit to which we help people attain this goal is through a beverage from the South Pacific Islands called kava, or Piper methysticum is the scientific name of the plant. But kava is a 3,000-year-old tradition of drinking a strong tea made from the roots of the kava plant, the portions of the plant that grow throughout the ground, including the bulky stem. And so the roots of the kava plant contain kava lactones like cavein, dihydrocavein, yangonin, desmethoxy, yangonin, methysticin, dihydromethysticin. These compounds act as anxiolytics, mood boosters, and muscle relaxants. So when you drink kava, you feel really calm, cheerful, kind of happy, uplifted, a little chatty, very socially comfortable, and also physically relaxed.
Oh, wow.
But not inebriated like alcohol. You're not going to be drunk. You're not going to be destroying your life. You're not going to be
dancing on tables.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you might be happy.
Okay.
If you will want to actually dance on the table if you're dancing on a table when you drink kava. It doesn't take you away from yourself. We haven't had any fights here at the kava bar. It's a very, for some people, a very subtle effect in the beginning, but it's also a very wellness focused social beverage because unlike alcohol, there's no physical withdrawal from it. There's not a hangover associated with kava. So it's not physically addictive. And a lot of people find this to be helpful in the fight against addiction to other substances, because a lot of the times when you feel triggered to go use your drug of choice, whether it's alcohol or a harder substance, it's anxiety is kind of the key that starts that engine. Wow. And so when you drink a little kava, it makes you feel calm, makes you feel relaxed, and it also helps you connect with other people. We've got a whole community of people that don't drink alcohol here, but still have a good time. So
there you go. I'm glad there's places like this because, like I said, I used to drink pretty heavily, and then in 2020, I just got kind of too old, and a couple hours of fun on Friday night equaled 3 hours of drag and pain and bloating and water loss, and your body. I just really tuned into my body and how much it was affecting me, and it would be like 3 days of drag. I just couldn't get enough energy, and as my body just going, hey, we're not doing this with you anymore with the drinking thing. You want to have 3 beers? Here's a massive hangover like you drink half a bottle of vodka, and it was crazy. But people deal with addiction, they deal with abuse of abusing drugs or alcohol to just kind of get through life or deal with your stress and stuff. And there's much better ways of doing it, because alcohol is just such a poison. I mean, technically it is a poison. That's why you get drunk. You're poisoning your brain. You're toxifying your brain. So I like the fact that there's now more alternatives. I never heard of kava before. How do you make kava, and where does it originate from? Do the plants only come from a certain part of the world, or?
That's a great question. So kava was most likely, according to different researchers, one of the first agricultural crops that was essentially genetically modified so that there would be different kinds of kava. It grows from Papua New Guinea all the way out to Hawaii. So we get most of our kava from Vanuatu, Fiji, Tonga, Hawaii. And the way that we make it, we try to make it in a similar way to how people on the islands have made kava for a long time. If a culture has been doing something for thousands of years, there's a good chance they're probably onto something. So we use water to make our kava. We put our high grade kava root, our noble quality kava root. There's different kinds of kava. Noble quality is the kind of kava that you want to drink if you're drinking often. And we put that into a strainer bag. We get some nice warm water that's been filtered, and we glove up our hands and wash our hands, make sure everything's sterile and clean. And then you put that strainer bag down into the water and you mix it up real hard. You knead it. I like to wring it out, squeeze it out. And this will give you a nice quality kava. Now, these days, there's a lot of kava extracts out on the market, a lot of kava concentrates out on the market. I tend to steer clear of those just because I don't usually know what kind of kava it was made from. And water prepared kava has had the 3,000 year history of safe use. So that's how we like to make it. Now, these days, people are growing kava in the United States. I think that's kind of a cool project, but we get all of our kava from the islands.
Wow. There you go. I get Kona coffee from Hawaii, and boy, that's really good coffee. There's something about the environment over there that just really makes some great stuff there. Now, it claims to have, as I'm reading on the internet, it claims to have a psychoactive properties of the beverage. Is it maybe like taking an edible or from marijuana edible, or like I think wormwood used to have like it has properties of psychoactivity, and I think that was why what's his face cut off his ear. He was drinking wormwood and something or other. It was mixing.
I think it was absinthe.
It was absinthe. That's what it was. Wormwood and absinthe. You mix the two of those, and you got a party on. I guess I don't know. I imagine I hear they don't make it the same way anymore, or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's hard to get the real stuff. I had it one time, and it made me pretty weird whenever I had it. I'm sober, a little over 2 years completely from alcohol.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And congrats on your sobriety as well.
Yeah.
Really, it's psychoactive in that it changes your mind and your mood. It has an effect on you. Whereas I kind of feel like trying to describe the way kava makes you feel is a little bit like describing a color to somebody that's never felt it before. It's not like pot. It's not like alcohol. It's like some of the positive qualities you might associate with alcohol. You're feeling a little more loose. You're feeling a little more social, but you're still cognitively totally there. You're not drifting away into babbling and stumbling.
Can you drive under it, or is that not recommended?
On our packaging, we suggest that people not operate heavy machinery, because we do actually like sell these products nationwide, these kava pouches. But I've found that kava impacts people very differently. So I always tell people to trust your body. If you're going to have a little bit of kava, it's definitely not going to have a negative impact on your motor functions. And this is backed up by science. You can look at some of the studies they've done on motor function in kava. But kava is a powerful substance. It's a powerful, some people would call it a plant medicine. If you drink a lot of it, it's going to make you pretty relaxed. So I usually tell people to wait about an hour before you operate a vehicle, just to stay safe. And if you feel like you are having a powerful effect from drinking kava, don't get behind the wheel. I mean, if you feel like you're being impacted to the point where it might affect your ability to drive, whether it's making you sleepy or making you too relaxed, then wait a little bit. That effect usually lasts for about an hour, and then after that, you should be fine.
Wow. And so is it kind of like a little bit like drinking and partying in the old days, but just not quite as much? Maybe you're just really relaxed and calm.
There is a euphoria aspect to it
Really?
too, so it's not all. Oh yeah, it's like some of the positive qualities of alcohol. If it didn't mess up your motor function and didn't cause you to do things that you want to actually do, like, you still stay with it. You feel calm, you feel happy, you feel cheerful. But like, there's a saying in Hawaii. In Hawaii, they call kava ava or awa, and the Hawaiian saying goes, "The man who drinks awa remains a man. The man who drinks liquor becomes a beast." And that's kind of been my experience with it. Like, if I was, for an example, if I was drinking alcohol and my wife and I had an argument, that argument was going to escalate. It was never going to, it was never going to, you're not thinking in your best head when you drink alcohol. So I would just dig myself deeper into whatever argument I was losing.
Oh boy. Yeah.
And whereas with kava, my wife and I don't argue since I stopped drinking, which is great. But if we ever have a slight disagreement and I drink some kava, I go back to my wife. I say, "I love you, baby. I'm sorry. I was wrong." And that's it. That's the end of it. It kind of brings you back to a mindful space of calm, clear-headed thinking, which is where it's way different from alcohol. Alcohol never made me more clear-headed, whereas kava definitely does. It also just has a physical sensation that's very enjoyable. And my favorite part of it is the one thing it most shares with alcohol is that it opens you up to social settings to where you can make friends. Wow. You can have connection.
That's pretty amazing where you can take and do that. It's so many people, they've done so many horrible things on alcohol. I've probably done horrible things on alcohol, done things I shouldn't be doing. Sometimes, it's impacted relationships and all that stuff. So, it definitely has an effect on you. And it can hurt. So tell us a little bit about your journey. We mentioned in the bio that you were homeless at one point. You kind of went through a journey of life and cathartic moments. Maybe tell us about how that journey played out and how you found this as a way to maybe your salvation.
Yeah, I mean, I feel super lucky. I've been in the right place at the right time at so many different points in my life, and from a pretty young age, I knew that I had an issue with substances. I when I was 14. I got expelled from my high school for puking on the high school the high school principal.
14?
Yeah, I started real young. My father had passed away when I was 12, so I
Okay.
was kind of lost,
Yeah.
and I'd watched him struggle with alcohol for my
Oh.
whole life.
Mhm.
And so subconsciously, I was learning that when you need to deal with a way that you feel, you drink alcohol.
Yeah.
And I got into some of the wrong crowds. I think a lot of people would probably argue I was the wrong crowd. Their kids probably fell in with me. And throughout my high school career, I had these bouts of drinking and issues with alcohol, and then I would kind of straighten up and get my stuff back together. But then
Mhm.
I went to college, and in college,
Oh, that's not a good place to avoid
no,
alcohol, right?
no. And, God bless Indiana University, but it's a huge party school. I got admitted to and then pretty quickly kicked out of a fraternity for drinking alcohol. I got arrested multiple times for alcohol related offenses. I just became the worst version of myself when I would drink. I'd be angry. I'd have emotional outbursts. I didn't know at the time that I had bipolar disorder as well. So
Wow.
other people would drink and they wouldn't have issues, but then I would drink alcohol and I would have issues that none of my cohorts would have in college. And so pretty quickly I found myself in a place where I was physically addicted to alcohol, shaking when I quit drinking, having full on psychotic episodes. Essentially, I had to be admitted to a psych ward on 2 different occasions in college, and I kept getting in trouble with the law too. Like you said, people do things when they're drinking alcohol that they don't normally do, and that's super true for me. Luckily, during this time, I was placed in a position where I had to start getting some help from recovery programs and some therapy, and that stuff was very helpful. But I was still struggling with alcohol. And so after a period of time, I kind of dropped out of college, moved back in with my mom, and immediately was drinking at my mom's house. It was just a mess.
Wow.
And so, in kind of a crazy string of circumstances, I had this opportunity to move to Colorado. I've always loved snowboarding. I've always loved skiing. I've always loved the outdoors. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to change my environment and I'll be able to overcome this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately upon getting to Colorado, my roommates that I moved in with were getting evicted because they were doing heroin. I drank away all of my money,
Oh,
and
wow.
I didn't know that they were getting evicted, so I didn't have anywhere to live. So I found myself on the streets,
Oh, wow.
and I called some guys from a local AA hotline, and they came and picked me up and took me to a meeting and helped sober me up for a second. And then they got me into a sober living house.
Nice.
These were great people, really good
Yeah.
people. And it was at this sober living house that I really started to get back together again. Back in 2017, relapse is a big part of my story. So hence the 2 years sober now. But in this sober living house, these guys were drinking kava.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a local kava bar there in Colorado Springs. It's a really great spot called Ohana Kava Bar, owned by a guy named Matt Clark. He's a real cool guy.
Mm-hmm.
And at a point where I was thinking about going out and getting drunk again, I think my girlfriend broke up with me or something not important now. But I found myself at that crossroads where I was like, I don't know how to deal with the way I feel. And I feel all this stress, all this anxiety. Life isn't the way I want it to be. I'm going to go get loaded.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a liquor bar, like a speakeasy on one side of and then there's a kava bar on the other side. It was like a little line of businesses. And I was looking at that liquor bar and looking at that kava bar, and I just said, let's try the kava bar. Let's see what's going on in there.
There you go.
And I walk into that kava bar. There's beautiful people in there having a great time, laughing, clapping each other on the back. Everybody's smiling ear to ear,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody's drinking booze.
Wow.
Everybody's joyously enjoying a community.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a kava. I had 2 kavas. I talked with the kava tender at the bar. We don't call them bartenders.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a great story, gave a great explanation about what kava was. And all of a sudden, I just felt this desire to go get messed up start to melt away.
Wow.
And then I had a great time, made a few friends, went back to my sober living house, and didn't drink that night.
Wow. And what was that like for you when you stepped away from it?
You know, it was a novel experience for me because usually when I had my mindset on getting messed up, I was going to go get drunk.
You're messed up, yeah.
And this simple interaction, and really it was the connection that I found within that space, I think, just as much as the kava that I drank. But it gave me hope. It gave me a sense of belonging, a sense of inclusion. And it made me feel like I wasn't missing out on anything by not drinking alcohol. I think I had this subconscious belief that I was always missing out. Like, why do all these other people get to drink alcohol, but I don't? You know, which is crazy.
Yeah. It's unfair. Darn it.
Right. It's unfair.
Yeah.
But that was the beginning of kind of my love of kava and my deep interest of kava and this desire to maybe start my own business. It started to develop right there in that moment.
Mm-hmm. And so kava kind of made it a way for you to find out. I imagine, geez, we need to turn more addicts onto this so that they can get into this, because I mean, really, when it comes down to it, I mean, this is maybe something that could help a lot of people out. You know, I live in Vegas where, you know, addiction is a really big deal. People that move here that have addictive issues or lived here that have addictive issues, this is not the city to live in for that, because we have everything you can ever want in the city of sin, as it were. And yeah, it's pretty freaking crazy, all the stuff and trouble all the trouble you can get in, basically, as it were. So people figure out a way to do this, and if it helps you, and so you built quite a business. How many years have you been at this, and how many years have you been at this, and everything else?
Yeah. So when I really decided I was going to launch the company, I had just become a father to my oldest son. He's 6 now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really good friends with the guy that owned that kava bar there in Colorado Springs. So I didn't really want to do it there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started looking for spots that didn't have a kava bar, but maybe could use one, and still had good outdoor activities, good snowboarding, good hiking, mountains, rivers. And I stumbled upon Boise as an opportunity. There were no kava bars here. So we moved here in 2019 and started the venture. Mm-hmm. And as you may or may not know, there was this whole COVID thing that happened.
Yeah, that's a tough time to start a bar, isn't it?
So that definitely set us back a ways. But we did farmers markets, and I worked at restaurants. I was always a waiter or a bartender, or I did dishes. I've done everything in restaurants. So I would sneak kava into the restaurants and sell it to the cooks in the kitchen. I would sell it to my managers. I would sell it on Facebook Marketplace. I was just trying to sell my kava to anybody that would get it. And for 3 years, we operated like that. And then back in 2021, we started selling the kava online through our website, karunakava.com. And that kind of put some wind into our sales. And then in 2022, in July of that year, we opened the kava bar. And it's been amazing to watch that community that I saw that first day there in that kava bar. Mm-hmm. It's sprung up all around us. And like you said, we try not to actively target addicts and alcoholics, just because I don't want them to be on edge thinking we're trying to make money off of their addictions, because that's not really the goal. We want to help people, and I think that's got to happen kind of organically. But kava and community and connection is a really potent harm reduction tool.
Yeah.
Because I've watched people come in here into this kava bar and break down crying about how they were just in the parking lot at the liquor store, and then they drove over here instead. And that they're just so grateful that we're here. And like, because like for me, anything can happen when I drink alcohol. We might have a good time. We might have a terrible time.
Really?
And I'll tell you a little. Oh yeah. Like I'll tell you a little story.
Okay.
Like, so when I was living at that sober living house, one of my best good buddies at that sober living house was a beautiful kid named Jasper. And Jasper was our dungeon master for Dungeons and Dragons. And we got sober together, and we had this real close connection. And, you know, he relapsed, and it only took a couple days of drinking, and he hung himself in his room. And, you know, he wouldn't have done that if he wasn't drinking.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people don't realize that alcohol is involved in 40% of suicides. It's involved in over half of domestic violence cases. Most violent crimes are committed under the influence of alcohol.
Oh, wow.
So I look at it from the case of, we just want to be here to help people meet their goals and to improve their lives in whatever way we can, so that they can be happy and so that they can live when it comes down to it. Because addiction is a deadly disease.
Yeah. It'll kill you eventually. And you know, so it sounds like, so are you a fun drunk when you get drunk, or are you not a fun drunk, I guess?
I would say 40% of the time I'm a fun drunk. 60% of the time I'm a suicidal drunk. You know, because I have bipolar disorder. I get real depressed sometimes if I'm drinking. Drinking has never made any of my problems better. It's never given me more tools to deal with my problems. And so if you're drinking and your life isn't looking very good and things aren't going great and the alcohol is not helping, then it's easy to get into a real depressed state. It's also a physical depressant. Like it's a central nervous system depressant. And so I would say 40% of the time we would have a good time, but it was that 60% of the time, and even if it was 95% of the time it was good, it's that 5% of the time that I would have a bad time that would make it not worth it. Like you said earlier, like you have 3 beers and then it ruins your health for 3 days.
Yeah.
That's how I started to feel. Like the last time I drank, I didn't drink that much alcohol, but it made me sick for like 3 days.
Oh, wow.
And that's just not worth it. Like there's a cost benefit analysis that we all have to do, I think, at a certain point. And for me, the cost benefit analysis with alcohol, there's way more costs than there are benefits.
Oh yeah.
It's not worth it. Yeah. Whereas with kava, the costs are very small, if none at all. And the benefits are huge. So I mean, for myself, I can only speak for myself. It's been a massive help in staying away from that destructive lifestyle.
Yeah. I'm glad you found that. And I think hopefully more people that know addicts or know of someone who struggles with addiction or maybe just alcohol abuse, they maybe could discover this and be able to utilize it. And I'm going to have to try some too. I've never heard of it to this point, which is why we do the show, so we can learn about new things and everything else. So there you go. As we go out, final thoughts to people on picking up your product, checking out, et cetera, .coms, give them the final pitch.
Yeah. So we've got our products at karunakava.com, KARUNAKAVA.com. You can order from our website, but because there's such a wide variety of kava products out there right now, I'm going to shout out other companies that are not associated with our company, just so if you wanted to try it and make it at home from raw kava root, you can have a good quality supplier, because it's all about making sure you got a quality supplier. So get it from karunakava.com, or you can get it from calmwithkava.com.
Oh.
You can get it from fijivanua.com. They've got great kava. You can get it from nakamalathome.com. That one's a little bit more of a mouthful, but if you search for some of those, you'll find great kava. And I would just tell people, stay away from some of those kava extracts, some of those tinctures, the kava pills, the kava hot tea bags. That's not kava. That's, think about, if I gave you an apple seed extract, I just gave you cyanide. That's a poison.
Really?
Yeah. There's all sorts of,
yeah,
in apple seeds, it's, if you concentrate it, it's not good. And so kava is one of those things where I think the traditional preparation where you use water to make it is really the best way to do it. And so, because I mean, an apple is a delicious treat. I love apples. I feed them to my children, but if you misuse an apple, it can become not a healthy product. And so that's why make sure you're using kava root that is of noble quality. I would suggest that you don't mix it with like other substances to try to potentiate the effects. Just go with the real deal traditional kava. And maybe if you don't want to make it at home, then you can start with some of our super awesome products at Karuna Kava. Now, these are great because these are ready to go. You don't have to do anything to them. You just crack the top and, give it a good mix, and you can drink them like that. They've also been naturally flavored. So kava is kind of earthy, bitter, woody, peppery. It doesn't taste great for a lot of people that are real new to it. So we help ease you into that experience, but it tastes a lot better than vodka. I'll tell you that.
There you go. Plus no hangovers.
That's
Gotta
right.
love the no hangovers. You're not going to have people texting you next morning going, "Did you remember what you did last night?" And you're like, "No, but why am I naked and laying in the street in the fetal position?" And you're like, "Yeah, probably something bad happened." So
yeah, that's if things went well.
That's if things went well. Yeah, right. If you wake up and there's you're in a holding cell with a bunch of people, that's probably didn't go well. So there you go. And you're like, your friends are calling you going, "Hey, you're on the newest episode of Cops."
That can happen.
The TV show. So there you go. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really am glad that you found, I have friends that struggle with addiction, and every day is a fight for them. And so I'm really glad that you found something that can help yourself and also help others. And man, you've turned it into a business. I mean, this is a great story. You can be homeless and bring yourself back and reach a point where you're contributing to society and helping others and creating a business around it and changing the world. I just love it. This is a beautiful part of entrepreneurism. So there you go. So thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah. Keep that hope. If you're losing hope out there, just keep hope. It gets better.
It gets better, folks. And being sober, I know it's hard for people. I used alcohol. I wasn't addicted to it, but you convince yourself that you need it. You convince yourself that it's an important factor in your life, and it's just such a waste of time, especially with the hangovers and the drag. And really, if you tune into your body, you start eating right, you start listening to what your body's telling you, you start really noticing how much you bloat from alcohol and how much it just really fucks with your body, especially when you're young. It's like, it seems like it doesn't do anything because you're just like, I don't know, you're young.
Yep.
When you get old, your body's like, we're not doing this with you anymore. Nah, we're not doing it. Fuck you. And if you want to have fun, have a beer, here's a hangover. You're just like, okay. Well, thank you very much for coming to the show. Thanks for audience for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss on the TikTok, and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.